Welcome back to the things we know. I'm Kari Morin.
And I'm Lisa Callahan, and today is a special celebration. Happy 25th episode, Kari Morin.
Oh, thank you, Lisa Callahan. This is so fun. Same to you. And it has flown by.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy that we're already at 25 episodes, and some of this has been recorded out of order, but we actually have recorded all 24 episodes before we do this one. So we wanted to take a moment and sort of reflect and share some of our favorites. We'd love to hear your favorites. So you could obviously post on anything we post on Instagram or Facebook. You can throw it underneath there and tell us what some of your favorites and your reflections are. And wherever you connect with us, we'd love to hear it from you as well.
Oh my gosh. Yes. This will be a rich conversation with our listeners contributing and reflecting back to us, because so much of what made things my favorite was response,
Totally. Yep.
Also, just fun fact, or little, we almost would have recorded this before our 21st fourth episode. We were together last week and we had every intention. We happened to be staying. If for those of you who remember MTV's The Real World, the second episode was filmed in Venice Beach, and we stayed in that house, and we stayed in one of the more iconic rooms. Yep. And we were like, we are totally going to record one here. And you know what? We had too much fun. We didn't.
We totally did.
So now it worked out beautifully, because this is genuinely the 25th episode we are recording. So yes.
Yeah. That was a fun weekend. For those of you who don't follow us on Facebook and Instagram, it was a working weekend for Kari and I, because we have more things planned for you all, and you'll be hearing about that in the near future, but that's what we were working on. And yes, we had every intention. And it's funny, you say that it being the iconic room. I didn't realize that until we got home. And then I started watching the videos. This was season 2 of The Real World MTV in Venice, LA. Back, I think we figured out it was like in 93 or something, but they just came back 2 years ago to record the anniversary of it. And so we stayed in the room where all the girls stayed. And so if you look up on YouTube, Real World Reunion of LA, you'll see exactly the beds we slept in.
Yeah.
Things. It was really fun. And yes, we just never could rally, because
I know
we are women of a certain age, and bedtime does roll around, especially after you've been sitting in the sun and maybe having 2 beverages.
It's so funny. I was showing those to my kids and they were like, so cool. And the thing that stuck out to them the most when I was showing them snippets of it, because they grew up, they were born into shows out there and genres that had the confessionals, sort of, and I'm using air quotes because, how real is it with those cameras around? It's all very produced, but they tried to make it like, throw these people together, see what happens. And that was new. But the idea of confessionals was funny to them. But even funnier was the fact that they had a payphone in the house,
in that room. Yeah.
Because no one had cell phones. There was no email. There was no, if there was cell phones, that those kids didn't have it. It was a pretty rare thing still. So yeah, that was awesome to my kids to imagine, how do they get people in these houses not using their phones? I'm like, well, they didn't have them.
Well, and also they had the payphone, but then they also had the landline, and there was a little flash of the one girl talking, and they had call waiting.
Yes.
And she was like, they'll have to call you back. And then that person got mad. I was laughing because we passed the confessional room every time we went to our room. And I always wondered, what's behind that door? And now I know it's a confessional.
Now we know.
I know Kari and I tried to do confessionals as a joke, and it did not go well.
I think it's funny. We might share them at some point.
We're not sharing them. Yours was good. Your first one was good, but mine were stupid.
Just good. We enjoyed it.
It was. We had
all right. Really good time. I think let's jump in. We're gonna each. We haven't told each other, and I don't think any of these things will surprise us, because we tend to read each other's minds. But just for fun, Lisa's gonna share with me her 3 favorites, and then I'll share mine. So let's jump in. You want to start? All
right. Sure.
Okay.
So my first favorite, I really think, is the things we wished we knew. And you said it earlier, the part of why I've chosen these is because the reflections we were getting, it's not as easy, we realize, to reflect on our social medias at this point. That might change in the future, but both of us were getting texts around this. That was the second episode. So it was in the first major launch. And it was what I loved about it was how many people reached out to me and said, can I share this with my daughter? Because we were reflecting on things from our teenage years, really. You know, we were looking back on, these are the things we wished we knew back then, that we wished we could tell our younger selves, because now we know that shit didn't matter. Or, you know, I think my favorite is boys are stupid. And so
Definitely.
it was just it was very touching for me to have my sister immediately text me and go, I'm going to share this with my niece, Olivia, because she's going through a lot of these things, the things you were talking about what you were going through in high school. She's, again, life doesn't change, right? So teenage girls are going through the same shit. And while it might not, she might hard eye roll because like, oh, that's just Aunt Lisa. Maybe a little bit of it burrows into her mind and she thinks about it a little bit differently. So that to me was mind blowing, A, and B, like, it just was one of my favorite ones to talk about.
That is a good one. I had a hard time not choosing that one because so many people have come back to us and as parents with their kids or their kids saying, like quoting it and saying, oh, you know, you reminded us that, you know, expectations kill joy, or when you overfunction, people will underfunction. Like those reminders that people will come back to us with, I think are so golden. And I love that. I too have a couple of friends that were like, I sent this to my son, or my daughter and I were on a road trip and she wanted to listen to it. And it's so neat that I'm not saying those things. They're hearing you say those things. And it's true because my kids have listened to those, at least those first three I know. And they probably enjoyed it. And I rolled a little bit because they've heard me say those things so many times.
Oh, well, I mean, expectations kill joy. I mean, I think hands down, that was a huge, like, we had so many people going, like, that was the mic drop, right? Of expectations kill joy. That was, I think, the biggest takeaway for most people. Okay. So then I'm not going to go chronologically. So because I've added something, but so my next one would be Some Light at the End with Beth Kavanaugh. And I picked this, no offense to Amy Pickard, I picked this over Amy only because I've been doing Good to Go for 6 years, and I've interviewed Amy before, and so that it was new information to you, and you got to see how funny she was about that. But for Beth, what I loved about that is because I had gone through hospice and with my dad, and so to hear, you know, I didn't have that much time with the hospice nurses. And so my intuition was exactly what Beth said they were, you know? And so for me to hear her talk about it in such a lovely way and reaffirm what I think I said on the pod to begin with, which is that hospice nurses are angels walking this earth. It just, it was, I loved it. When I re-listened to it, I was like, plus I just loved Beth. She was cute.
I know her voice is so soothing.
So soothing. Yes.
What an amazing soul she is. I mean, that's I mean, that's an easy one for me to just gush it out because I've known this woman for 41 years and she continues. She's one of those people. She's one of your people, right? Like she's one of those people who will always be stretching herself to grow and give and find her place that, you know, supports the growth of others, but also her own. And she's inspiring that way to everyone who knows her. So I was so excited that we got to share her.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing her with us. Yay. And so then the last one is, which has a little caveat to it, and perfect because I know it's one of yours now, is the difference between not giving a fuck and having no fucks and not giving a shit. I can't remember the name of the title. I shortened it by shit be fuck. That's what I kept calling it. And you know, it's
what we care about.
Right, exactly. And it was, and of course you guys now have already heard, hopefully, our last week's pod, which was the interview with Allison Gary, who inspired that particular pod. But as we talked about last week, you know, this was always Kari and I's vision. In fact, we said this last week, we wanted to call the pod at some point, No Fucks Left to Give. There's actually a lot of pods already called that. But that was always our guiding light, was this idea of you get to a certain age and you no longer give a fuck. And then before the pod even became a thing, you had shared with me Allison's article about the difference. And we talked about this last week, but it was just, it made so much sense because it's like I knew what the difference was, but to have words to it. So doing that pod initially, and then the caveat is interviewing Allison and talking more about it. Again, it's one of our most listened to pods, because I think everybody understands sort of that there's a difference, or maybe they don't. And to hear the distinction between when you don't give a fuck, you don't care about what other people think of you, and so you're more empowered. And when you don't give a shit, you may feel disempowered. And so that was a huge needle mover, I think, for me and for sure our listeners.
Oh my gosh. Yes. And Allison is currently, I think, our favorite person.
Yeah.
We just had her.
I would love for her just to like move to LA and I could be her best friend.
Yes, I know. She's so cool. And because she has no fucks left, and because she's so dear, and all of her energy is in all the right places for herself and for all the people that listen to her and for her daughter. It's just, that's exactly the thing. And what I love about what you just said and those 2 episodes and really everything we're doing is, I think, like my best example of what I want to say is my aunt who listens, and she's in Santa Fe, was visiting my mom, and my mom had an injury. And my mom's already a fan, and they decided to watch us, right? Instead of just listen to us, watch us on YouTube. And my aunt just kept, I don't know about this shit fuck one. Maybe that's too much for us. And my mom goes, no, you got to listen to it, which it was so wild and fun that my mom even, said that, because we were not a household that used that language growing up. And, that would have been really not okay in my childhood. And so for people who like appreciate our humor and just our ability to use whatever language we want to express ourselves, because it's like you always say, it's just words.
Yep. The
heart of all of this is the most welcoming invitation to all women that, like that, when you like, it's okay to just put yourself first. It's okay to care about the things that you really care about. It's okay to listen to your inner voice about who you are and who you want to be, and stop worrying and caring about what other people think. So much joy is more accessible. So much connection is more accessible. So much better communication is more accessible. So I think, yes, it's fun, and it's fun to cuss and all that. And it makes a lot of sense, but it is such the through line of what we're trying to say here.
Yeah. It's
please stop worrying about all that shit. You're going to enjoy yourself in life so much more. And I love that. So,
and again, I think it goes, it was one of those, we have been so surprised by the fact that women younger than 40 are listening and getting something out of this. And the reflection we keep getting is, it's like a roadmap for us. We no longer feel like our life is over when we turn 30 or 35 or God forbid 40, right? To hear you and I talk about this with laughter, with wine, with cussing has been empowering for them. And while they may not quite be able to get there yet, the fact that they see there's a place where they're going to be able to just like brush all that shit off. I don't know. That to me, I never expected this to be something that I'm so proud of as a future pacing for 30-year-olds.
I know.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing that's really, in fact, I was at an event the other night and I stopped saying it because I was having lots of people come in and go, so what's the pod about? And I actually just said, it's for women to let them know that the best is still in front of them. I stopped saying women of a certain age because I just know that it's not actually about 30s. I mean, about 40s and beyond. It's any age,
actually too, like we even said, the tagline or the subtitle should be, it gets better.
Period.
Like it doesn't, not for any specific person. And just like Allison was saying, it's not women of a certain age, it's grown ass women. And if you identify as a grown ass woman and you are ready to own your own experience and be more attentive to who you are than to what you think other people want from you, then like we are here for you.
Yeah.
We're here for you anyway, but we're definitely here for you if you're ready to put yourself.
As I think we say all the time, or at least I feel like we do, take what you want, leave the rest, and maybe take what feels right and lands for you now and file the rest away. I mean, the pod's not going anywhere. You can always go back and re-listen when you're like, wait a minute, I think Kari and Lisa talked about this at some point.
I know. I love this. I'm so excited about how those are coming together. Yeah, those two episodes and how they will be things I will always send people to.
Yes. Yeah. So what about you? What are your top 3?
Okay. Can I have a runner up?
Yeah, I mean, I did.
So my runner up is actually this series that's running currently while we're recording this, which is it's like a 3-part series on necessary losses, which includes Beth. It includes Amy, because yes. Can I just give a shout out to Amy Pickard as the funniest human I've ever met.
Yep.
And for her getting me excited about advanced planning, like the most loving thing I thought I could ever do for my kids was give them each other. But I think the next most loving thing is to make sure everything is thought through so that when they are grieving their parents, or when they are like holding space for each other to grieve, that they are not trying to figure out all these things that, like, if I just kind of put it somewhere in writing, that would have been so much easier for them. Like it is her pain, her journey is the greatest gift to other people. So and she's fucking funny. And then, everything you said about Beth, I second. We call her the angel of death, but honestly, everybody who knows her, like she's a magical person who has taught us all that death is as, if not more, beautiful than birth, and to be present to it is a gift.
When she said that, I got to tell you that I've said that a couple of times to people recently. I was like, that actually really landed for me. And not just the person that gave birth, but that there's something really beautiful no matter, again, because Beth talked about, you don't have to be at the bedside, but just knowing the peace that can happen and the release, there is, I think, I do think it's more magical than birth.
And then being present, just being present to it. And then like the third one, the one that started with us, is really, and we're gonna interview our boys here soon, is just the idea of all the types of loss that are gonna happen. You're all gonna die. If you have kids, Spoiler. They are gonna grow up.
Spoiler alert.
Exactly. And so, all the things, you're gonna move on from jobs and relationships, all these things. And I'm really just in that part of life so much right now that all of it, that I just like as a series, that's my runner up. But I do have 3 favorites beyond that, even though like I really could have just picked those 3 and we'd be done right now. So the first one is Feel Your Feelings. It was one of our original 3. So for those of you who've been following us, you probably know we dropped 3. We were very proud of those. Those were our inaugural sessions, and we had a lot of fun making them. And we chose Feel Your Feelings as one of our first ones because, again, that's very relevant right now, not just to the work we do, not just to people coming home to themselves and like really going through growth and transformation and realizing you can't get anywhere without actually being present to your emotions. And then if you try, and again, as Gen Xers, we were really groomed to, kind of like keep that under wraps and not emote, right? I saw someone who we follow, I want to say like Slim Sherry or something, like she does those really funny ones about being a Gen X. And she said, we didn't have emojis. We didn't even get to have emotions. Because you know how we channeled our emotions? Mixtapes. And I was like, yes, like that's why we are so connected to music, because we weren't really, didn't live in a time where we had words and expressions and ways to express our emotions. So the idea that like in personal growth and transformation, that it's important to actually feel your feelings and not fear them and not avoid them is huge for me, especially raising young men, especially being married to a Gen X man, which at some point, did I just freeze or did you?
No, I'm here.
Okay. No. Especially being married to Gen X men, like again, really interesting for everyone our age right now to be in this place of you're not going to get to the next stage of growth and success in your life until you face those feelings. So at that, and then the part of that stands out to me was how much you and I just really loved the idea like of the emotion called bittersweet, right? Which goes into the loss, but also goes into, the romantic and the friend stuff, like all the things from your life. Like bittersweet is such a delicious emotion that you don't want to avoid. And it really brought up music for us. So I think that stands out to me as one. I loved that conversation. And so many people reached out to me saying, wow, that really hit home. The things you shared, the songs you guys shared. And I'm really feeling just so permitted to be an emotional person. And the feedback we got on that was touching. It was unexpected.
I mean, all the feedback's been touching and unexpected. I am constantly blown away. And I can say more about that at the end, but yeah, no, I think you just hit on it, right? Like, it's not that we didn't have feelings or that it as Gen X, but yes, there's the whole sense of we were half raising ourselves, no offense to our parents. But also you do what's modeled for you, right? And our parents probably didn't have that, right? And so I think the beauty of this is owning it for ourselves and then modeling it for our children. You said it for the boys, but Liam has always been somebody who's been willing to show his emotions. No, I'm not going to say this because I want to say it in front of him when he's on the pod, but Charlotte was the one, and I think I said this in the pod, that she used to be really resistant of me crying. And I have this, I don't think anymore because I've been saying it all the time that I cry, but I think I have this persona that I've got it all together and I'm so strong and fuck, I cry if you're watching, I'm doing my little arms that Kari loves. I am strong and have it together because I cry, because I'm the Holly Hunter from broadcast news. I don't schedule a cry every morning, but like, I don't have any problem crying. And yet I think, especially for Charlotte as a little girl, that was probably scary to see her mom crying. What does that mean? Why is but as she's gotten older, she is more open to those feelings because I have always done it, So yes, I think it's about, if you are still resistant around feeling your feelings, remember that you are modeling for the younger generation what is appropriate and acceptable.
I love what you just said, because I think over the weekend when we were together, I reposted something from the holistic psychologist about, crying and the amount of times when clients are in front of us or friends, or they start to cry talking about something that, that I'm listening to or asking about, and they go, sorry, I don't know why I'm crying. People do that so much. Right. Yep. And I think I've done it too. I think if people, sorry, it's like, and we're always like, please don't apologize. I've always tried to invite people to feel really welcome to tears and see it as love. But this description is exactly what you just said. It's your nervous system needs to reset and self-regulate.
Yep.
So allowing yourself to feel feelings means you're not bottling stuff up, but that has nowhere to go. And that's going to cause physical pain or emotional pain or just like a discomfort because you let it happen. Of course you feel better.
Yeah,
of course.
Yeah.
So I love that. So feeling your feelings is good for your health.
Yes.
Good for your life. Awesome. Okay. My second one is not going to surprise you, I don't think, but it might, because I hated it and I didn't want it to go. I didn't want to even submit it. If you recall, was Make Your Body Your Bestie. And diet, like maybe a little bit diet culture, but definitely like it was a combo of those two that when we did them, I was like, this is too touchy. I'm so sensitive, as you know.
You must have done that in your inside voice. I don't remember you not wanting to post them.
I remember telling you this is not my favorite one, or this is like, I really don't like this.
Yes.
I'm not sure what it was. And it wasn't that I was worried about what people were going to think. It was like, I think it was just making me so aware, because I can pick up on people's feelings around all this stuff anyway, but so aware of everyone I've ever talked to and what this brings up for them. And, just wanting to be sure we were either hitting all of it or, definitely not just touching on things that people wanted more of. I just didn't love it until it came out and I listened to it. And Lisa and I have both said this to each other. I don't know if we've said it on a recording, but when we're doing it, we're very conscientious to want to bring everything we want to bring. When we re-listen to it, I enjoy it so much more because I mean, always enjoying it, but I enjoy it even more because I'm like, God damn it, Lisa's so smart. This is so fun. I love this conversation. where I'm hearing you more than I am,
Yes.
And so
vice versa. I'm always like, man, Kari, you said some really good shit on that one.
I know. We're like mutual admiration
we're so present in this moment,
Yes.
and we're having a conversation. And when you're having a conversation, you're not really thinking about the impact per se.
Right.
So we go back and listen to it. I listen, and I'm a little like I have a little cringe face, and then I started to listen, I'm like, oh,
so yeah. So when I listened to it, I liked it. It. When I loved it, when it became one of my favorite, was to this day, when people listen to that particular episode, I get these long texts and messages from people I know, people I've worked with, people I don't even know that well, who are like, messaged me through Facebook or Instagram and sharing their story and telling me how much emotion came up for them around it and how many things opened up listening to it. And I am moved. And I know that's not us. That's you and I just bringing it through us. Right. So I don't want to take all the credit for that at all. That the fact that it reached people reminded me like, oh, maybe it was bothering me for a reason. Maybe I was feeling that people really needed something to open up for them there. And so it's a great lesson to me that the things that feel uncomfortable are probably the most important.
I mean, Jesus, yeah, like that's exactly right. I guess for me, I remember also agreeing that it wasn't my favorite at the time. And I think for me, I knew it then. Again, I did this for 14 years working for Weight Watchers, trying to move women into a healthy relationship with food. Unfortunately, probably doing it from a diet culture perspective that I didn't totally understand at the time. And so I'm just really at a place where I don't, as I've said before, I don't give a shit what people weigh. I don't, like everything's beautiful to me. And so for me, it just felt like, God, I've been talking about this for so long, first through Weight Watchers and then as a health coach. And just because I've been doing it all this time doesn't mean that it's not landing for somebody brand new,
Right.
And so I think you're right. It's recognizing that what we might want to talk about, even though you and I, because a lot of this comes from conversations we've been having for years, we might feel like we've talked this to death, but somebody else, it might land absolutely brand new. It might be that moment that they go, what? Oh my God.
Well, and I think too, I mean, speaking, I know you've had your own similar journey in a different timing, but we've gone through, I mean, I'm 54. I've gone through places where I thought like those things were behind me and I finally mastered and I felt really good. And then enter menopause and all the things that I can't control about that and all the factors. That it could be coming around again and landing for people at the exact right time. And that, again, this brings up Allison Gary of last week's episode, which one of the things we freaking love about her is she is so unapologetic and so celebratory in her blogs and her photos about, she's like, I am average. I am the average build, average height. And, she loves to just demonstrate like, here's an average size woman in a bathing suit and like, and loving life. She looks amazing and loving life and just really just exuberant and exuding joy. And I think that's it. Like that idea that I am done. I do not want to spend another minute of my life, not, like thinking about my shape or my size or my body.
We will. I mean, there's no way we won't think about it, but hopefully I
think in those ways though, those ways you can really get past it.
Yeah. I think that's it though, right? Like recognizing that the failure is not in worrying about how you feel. The success is actually in being like, and fuck it.
Exactly.
Because I mean, there's parts of me after all these years, and I've been out of the diet industry for almost 6 years now, and exactly 6 years as of tomorrow. And as when we're recording, and I still sometimes look at myself in a dress or look at myself in the mirror and I'm like, ooh, and I'm like, no, fuck it. It's that getting yourself out of it faster. That's the success.
Well, I also think the style thing is great. Like learning to just love your style might bypass that, the, it's just, this is awesome. I love this. And then I think my last one, although I don't know, I kind of wanted to tie the Allison Gary style thing because it was so great. But my last one's the Mother's Day one. I loved it.
Really?
Yes. And I know it was a bonus. It was funny. I kept thinking, well, it was a bonus. I'm not going to pick it. And it just kept popping up because your mom is one of the
Mm.
reasons like we became connected in the way we were. It
Yeah.
feels like she has a lot to do with all of this.
Yeah.
And
And she
getting
would
to
love this
right,
pod.
getting to
Yeah.
talk about her, thinking about how stylish she is and
Mm.
getting to talk about her and celebrate her was great, but also like that my mom is listening and
I know.
she
I love it
loves
so
it,
much.
and that her wisdom is
Yes.
coming through me, and that she gets
Yeah.
to hear her own wisdom back, but also
Mhm.
that she listened and just was so tickled and sent me a text that I read to you that she's so proud of us and that she loves what
Oh.
we're doing. I don't know, like how do you not pick that? It was so
Well, I
great.
mean, now that you mention it, that's exactly right. Yeah, no, I love it because yes, I often think when you send me texts about your mom loving it, it makes me so happy. And then also I'm like, and if mom was here, she would love it. Because
I know.
I can't remember if she was listening to pods. I feel like she was because she like, well, I know she
She
was
like Pod Save
Pod Save
America.
America.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she was definitely listening to pods. And, I could almost just see her little face being like, oh my God, my daughter's got a podcast. So
I
like being
know.
so proud and so excited. So yeah, that's a good one. That's a good call.
I
Yeah.
know. My cousins texted me different times, and one of them was like, "I am out walking, listening to the Mother's Day pod, and I am bawling." And I was trying to think of
Oh.
what did we say that would have made her. But maybe it was just her thinking about my mom. I don't know.
Could be. I think maybe the reason I reflect on both that and the Father's Day pod, which was also fun. And for Father's Day, on Father's Day, we actually watched it. It's so funny because one of the very first people to tell me I should do a pod was Darren, my husband.
Mhm.
And yet he likes to watch that. And his whole reason was because sometimes people don't want to sit and watch the things I know on Facebook. So you should do a pod. And now he actually likes watching it better on YouTube than so that was one of the things we did on Father's Day was sit and watch the Father's Day pod on YouTube. And it was really fun to watch him and the reflections you had on Darren in particular, like he just got like all little like proud. And then something I said, Charlotte turned around and was like, oh yeah, that's totally you. But I think all that to say, in my mind, the Father's Day and the Mother's Day pods were so personal to us. And I think that's the interesting thing about all of this is that everything we talk about is so personal to us.
Mhm.
And so I guess I'm some odd level shocked at how this is going to sound stupid because of course we thought it was universal. That's why we're doing this. But because everything we're talking about is so us, I'm shocked at how other people are like, that's me too. And of
It's
course,
funny that
that's
you're
why we're
shocked because we
talking.
know that, but then yeah.
I know, but I think, because again, you and I are just having this conversation over Zoom. We happen to be recording it. We happen to have nice mics, but you and I did this for years before we started doing the pod. We did
Well,
Zoom and just talk and drink.
and we know people like you, and
I
you're
wouldn't be
relatable.
dressed as nice.
You're relatable.
I'm relatable and I'm also very authentic.
You are, and people like you.
And you're pretty.
Thank you. Oh man, I am teasing her. If Lisa had a dime for every person that told her she was relatable,
Which I
we
love.
could.
Oh my God, I
Yeah,
love it. That's like the
I know
highest compliment is that
it
somebody,
is.
because, I think it's that idea of everybody, we think everybody's looking at us and we're not, and they aren't really, right? We're all
No,
so self-absorbed, not in a narcissistic way, but in a just like we're
in a
all
natural human way.
in a
Yeah,
natural human way. And so when somebody says, I mean, I often think of myself as kind of a lot and a hot mess. And so when somebody's like, you're relatable, I'm like, sweet, more hot messes. Hooray.
exactly. Like the more I can just be me, whoo, that's so much easier. And
Oh
the
my
more that
God.
people can relate to it, the
Yeah.
better work we're gonna get done together.
No question.
Let's
No
not
question.
waste time pretending we're something we're not.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I mean, again, there are no words to express how blown away I am. When we started this, and I'm still saying this, I still feel this way. You and I want to do this and put it out in the world. And when it lands, it lands. And when it doesn't, it doesn't. And yes, we want to grow the pod and we have all these great ideas. And so there is an aspect of at some point we have to figure out the analytics and how do we how do we do this so that we are reaching more people? So
Right.
at some point, this 25 episodes is a lot, but it's a fucking baby. Like
It's drop in the
25 weeks
bucket.
old, right?
Yes.
It's 25 weeks old. That's a tiny, tiny baby. And I also have no attachment to, is everybody loving this, right? Like if my best friends and my sister aren't listening anymore, I don't care, because I know it's going out there and it's going to the people it's supposed to. And yet when people from your past, from my past, people I am not technically really talking to on a very regular basis, if at all, are reaching out going, oh my God, I love this. Thank you for doing this. It blows my mind every time. And I hope I never lose that. I hope I never assume that everybody's listening and loving, because then it might be over.
I was actually thinking too about something that Allison said about her blog, which is, we know what we know. It's called The Things We Know. And we have a lot of similarities in the way we grew up and the way we live and work and move in the world. And I think, we're new and this is the beginning, and we're learning and expanding and growing. And so we're doing this with our listeners, and we're gaining so much from that feedback, and we are open to all feedback, even if it's not positive, or, I would love to hear it, because that's how we're going to grow, is to be challenged and become more aware of how we can make this whole journey more fun and more easy for people. And so I'm looking forward to that, like the ways we continue to know more things that we can share.
Yeah. And, we keep saying we have an email, and we've never really said what it was, because I never have it in front of me, but I want to say it now. We'll put it in the show notes. Our email is actually the Things We Know podcast 23, and it's 23 because it's 2023. And so I would love it for those of you who want to reach out and don't do it on social media, aren't on social media. Maybe you're not following our pages. Totally cool. I have no issues with that, obviously. If you want to reflect back to us, or if you have ideas, I mean, Kari and I have a shit ton of ideas, don't get me wrong, but and when we get reflections of like, I'd love to hear about this, I'm like, hot damn, yeah, let's do that. So the Things We Know podcast 23 @gmail.com. If you want to let us know what is landing for you, if there's been anything that you've been like, bitch, please, like, we'd love to know that. We are open to all feedback. And if you have ideas, if there's things you want us to talk about, please send it to us. We would love to get more. We want this to be community. Yes, it's a podcast, so it's kind of hard to do that, but we want this to be community.
Absolutely. I love it. Yes, please email us. Or you can message us if you follow us in the social media platforms as well. Either one.
For sure, DM. I mean, we get a fair amount of DMs through Instagram. I don't feel like we get as many on Facebook, but yes, you can definitely do it that way as well. Whatever feels comfortable to you. We love it. We welcome all of it. So
yay. Song time.
Do song times. Okay.
Yes.
So I decided, and Kari agreed, what I'm going to quote today is actually the words from the theme song, which is Damage by the one and only Charlotte Callahan, who you might know is my daughter. And so I asked her to send me I picked that song because it's one of my favorite songs of hers. And it's got great music to do the themes in and out. But this was a song, this was a song when she was going through it and this is going to maybe sound, no, it's not going to sound anything. When she was going through it in middle school, and she had a friend who was particularly toxic. We had just moved to LA. And when you're in the 6th grade, you're doing whatever you need to do to be to have love, safety, and belonging, especially outside of the house. And this song came from that. And so I guess in some ways it's exactly the right song, because it's, if 54-year-old Charlotte could go back to Charlotte in the 6th grade, I'm sure she would say, fuck this shit for sure.
You're better than this. You're better
than this. And she's talented enough.
And it gets better.
And it gets better. So here's the lyrics. And it is on our playlist. We do have the Things We Know playlist on Spotify that you can follow if you want. We add the song every week, but this is the very first song on the playlist because it is the theme. So Damage by Charlotte Callahan. Not the first time it happened, more like the 1,000th time, caught in the words of madness with an unstable decline. What am I supposed to do when they stick onto you? Feels like an hour or two when they start to damage you. Going around just asking, should I be used to it this time? Fall into the same contraptions, but I can't figure out the signs. What am I supposed to do when they stick onto you? Feels like an hour or two when they start to damage you. And I just want to say again, she was in the 6th grade when she wrote that song.
Impressive.
I know. I mean, she
Really
feels her
good.
feelings.
That's
sometimes
good.
through lyrics.
I mean, that's what art is, right?
It really is. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Oh
So
my
thank
gosh.
you to Charlotte for allowing us to use this Damage as our theme song.
Yay.
Yay.
And now's the time where I say, this is fun. Thank you for doing this with me
Oh my God.
and like hanging out on Thursdays with me. This is so much fun.
I'm so glad. As soon as you started to say that, I had this flash of the original conversation between you, me, and Kari Peters. That made us first start to think about, how can we create community around this?
Right.
To let women, again, quote unquote, of a certain age, understand that everything they're feeling, emotionally, mentally, physically, is exactly right and exactly normal. And then when Kari Peters said to me, that should be a podcast, I remember like rushing out to you and like sitting at that back table at Rancho Bernardo and being like, Kari said it should be a podcast. And you and I were both just like, yes, oh my God,
Yes.
that's right. And then we just jumped in with both feet. We spent money and we invested, and I'm so fucking happy. Again, we just recorded Allison, so she's very fresh in our mind, but Alice and Gary talking about, when she left her corporate job because she was already blogging and that was the thing that made her happy.
Mm-hmm.
I love coaching. I'm going to be a coach for the rest of my life, but goddamn, this is the thing that makes me happy.
It's so fun.
Yeah.
And also just to say, like, there was over two different events. So we spent that first conversation, like we came right out of that sort of joking, but then really serious. Like, we need a retreat. We need in-person events. We need to bring women together. We want them to know they're not alone. We want to make them laugh. We want them make them realize this is the best part of their life.
Yeah.
So this already had some life and legs. And then, yes, we didn't instead do a podcast. We're still like, we just planned an amazing retreat. So you'll be hearing about retreats to come for women who like want more of this and more time together. But it's so great because the podcast allowed us to actually start this conversation, which is all divine timing.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm so glad you said yes. And this is, as we say all the time, our favorite day of the week is Thursdays when we record. I'm always a little sad when it's over. Just saying.
Yeah, me too.
Well, thanks everyone. I hope you enjoyed celebrating with us today. If you haven't listened to the pods that we mentioned, or maybe you did and you were like, oh, that's right, that was a good one, I'm going to go back and re-listen. We would love that.
Absolutely. And as a special commemoration of this 25th episode, we have something special for you that came out of some of these past few episodes, which is our top 10 tips on how to stop giving a fuck and stop caring about what other people think and start enjoying your life now. So we will be putting that in the show notes. You will see it in our social media, and it will allow you to access some of those fun tips, but also stay in touch with us even more. And more to come on that. And also, if you're already following the podcast, please consider taking a moment to like and review. Give us a review. What else do we do with that?
So I think review seems to be on Apple. I don't know about the other platforms. Spotify doesn't seem to allow reviews, but it allows you to do stars. So
rate and review. That was the word.
Yeah, rate and review whatever way you are listening to us.
We so appreciate that. If you do that, it really helps us expand our audience and reach more women like you. So thank you so much, and please consider sharing it with someone you think will enjoy this.
Absolutely. So that's it for this week. We will be back We'll be back next week with more things we know. Thanks for listening.
So long.
Bye.